I'm just an Orville machine, and I don't want to work for nobody but you. Hey, gang, imagine finding a lost episode of The Orville, okay? One that never aired, one Seth MacFarlane called conceptually experimental. It was supposed to be filmed in Europe, canceled by the pandemic, and then resurrected as a short book. Well, guess what, you guys? That missing episode just landed in paperback. That's physical media, not digital media, but still it's a thing you can pick up whole and read. So that's pretty cool, I guess. Now I've already listened to this story and on Audible, which was an absolutely amazing experience. But I'll let you guys figure that out on your own. There's things to click, blah, 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 blah. So let's talk about why this story might be one of the most important pieces of the Orville canon yet. Yeah, I said it. Written by Seth MacFarlane himself, this was meant to be like the 10th episode of season 3. No. This was meant to be like the 9th episode of season 3. What was I thinking? Set right between Midnight Blue and Domino. Two of the heaviest, most emotionally charged hours in the series, you guys, really. The novella drops us straight into a moral minefield, which is something that the Orville likes to do every now and again. So when Captain Mercer and the crew of the Orville come face to face with one of humanity's most vile ideologies, they must solve the conundrum of who to hold accountable for evil deeds, real and imagined, you guys. That's the fun part. It's dark, it's philosophical, and it might be one of the boldest stories Seth's ever written. I mean, I'm excited to see what stories he's come up with for season 4 of The Orville. Apparently, there's been like 5 scripts at least written already. It was a few weeks ago when I even heard that news, so maybe there's been another script written since. Because it really does seem like Seth's schedule is clearing up finally. That's what we've been waiting for. Season 4 isn't going to start until Seth's schedule clears up. And he's come out with a bunch of stuff. He's got stuff going on. It really seems like it's finally lightening up a little bit. Good news for us. But let's rewind, okay? Back in production for the Orville New Horizons, season 3, for those not keeping count, who can't count to 3, there were supposed to be 11 episodes in season 3, but we only saw 10 episodes. That missing piece was Sympathy for the Devil. Now, Seth MacFarlane and the crew were ready to film it. Locations were scouted in Europe. Scripts were finalized. Well, I guess one script was finalized because it only takes one script for one episode. And they even had props designed already for this thing. This was going to be the most cinematic outing of the season. And if you read the story, or if you listen to the story, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But they were ready to film it. But then COVID-19 happened. That stupid little pandemic that inconvenienced all of us quite a bit. International travel was completely shut down. Insurance costs skyrocketed, which is a huge deal when it comes to filming stuff. There's a lot of lawyers and insurance providers and all kinds of stuff going on, contracts when it comes to filming anything in Hollywood. It's a logistical nightmare, and it killed the episode before cameras could roll. Now, Seth calls the story an outlier, meaning it didn't quite fit the pacing or tone of the other episodes of the season, but it explored a completely different moral landscape, something closer to the Twilight Zone or Black Mirror, I guess. But instead of tossing it in a vault, he made a gamble, release it as a novella. Because season 3 ended up being the show's swan song, he wanted this particular story to exist in some form for fans to enjoy and to learn something from, really. Give you something to think about. Luckily, though, we're going to end up seeing this episode in season 4. And thank goodness, because Sympathy for the Devil is quintessential Orville. funny, fearless, and painfully human. You hear that, you damn Kalons? It's human. So, how do you turn a script into a novella? By removing the camera and amplifying the conscious, I guess. Hyperion Avenue, the same Disney imprint that publishes literary tie ins, picked up the story. The results read like an unfilmed episode that survived through sheer willpower. It's written in screenplay prose, you guys, not flowery novel language. You can hear the Orville dialogue rhythms in your head. Ed's sarcasm, Kelly's grounded compassion, Isaac's perfectly dry logic. And the audiobook, read by Bruce Boxleitner, yes, Bruce Boxleitner, the man who played Tron himself, and guest starred as President Alcuzon in season 3 of The Orville. His voice gives the story gravitas, like a bedtime story for morally conflicted adults. Now, with this new paperback edition, fans finally get something tactile, something to slide onto your nightstand and whisper, "You're home now, buddy. You just stay right there. Be ready for me." Oh, it's getting a little too personal, I guess. Chronologically, this story happens between Midnight Blue and Domino. The calm before the chaos. I mean, you guys know the chaos of Domino. I mean, there's actually a lot of chaos in Midnight Blue as well. This story doesn't have Dolly Parton in it. I'm sad to say. But I would have loved it if it did. But at this point in the series, the Orville crew is emotionally fried. They've just dealt with Mocklin politics, Topa's trauma, and the fragile alliance between the Union and the Kalon. Then along comes the ideological horror story from our own human history. And that's what threw me for a loop when I listened to this story, you guys. But that placement, it matters. It bridges the themes of season 3, tolerance, empathy, and the haunting truth that humanity still carries its own darkness, even among the stars. It's as if Seth said, "Okay, you think the Kalon are complicated? Try confronting your own species' capacity for evil." Because humans have done some pretty evil things, you guys. But that's why calling this book Sympathy for the Devil is so genius. It's not about forgiving evil, it's about understanding the machinery that creates it. I just watched Halloween Ends last night, and it's about that. It's about understanding the machinery that creates evil. I didn't quite like the movie. I liked the end of the movie, but I did not like the first 75% of the movie. It was weird. It was not the Michael Myers type of movie I was looking for. It's more like Halloween 3, I guess, except for Michael Myers actually does show up at some point. But anyway, that's a conversation for another day. On Halloween, we'll talk about that. But Seth MacFarlane describes this story as like a conceptually experimental story. And he wasn't kidding. The novella imagines a scenario where the crew must decide who deserves blame for atrocities: people who commit them or people who were programmed to believe in them. It asks, if technology can simulate history, can morality survive it? I mean, these are kind of themes we deal with in our own lives when we look out at the world, and hopefully everyone's looking out at the world and having thoughts about it and just and thinking about it internally. That's one of my favorite things to do is to, well, I don't say it's a favorite thing, but it's something that I do actually do is I see what's going on and I think about it. I don't just react. But that's the heavy lift. That's the heavy lift for this story. The Orville thrives on philosophical tightropes, you guys. From mad idolatry, which is one of my personal favorites, to electric sheep. The series constantly pokes at the edges of moral clarity. This story would have pushed even further, probably the darkest hour the show ever conceived, and yet, paradoxically, the most human. Because the Orville never lectures, it invites. It says, "Here's a mirror. Look carefully. What would you do?" That's one of the reasons I absolutely love the Orvilles. It just presents us with situations and allows us room to breathe, to think about it. But that's the brilliance of releasing this as literature. You don't get distracted by VFX or music cues. You sit alone with the idea until it echoes. So, why should Orville fans care about a paperback release when the ebook already exists? Because stories live longer on paper. Ooh, super throwback paper. Ooh. No, paper's awesome. Digital files vanish. Paperback endures. It's the difference between streaming your favorite episode and owning the Blu-ray, even though we don't really have a Blu-ray of the Orville. Give us a Blu-ray of the Orville. I'm demanding it right now. But having it on paper, it's preserving it. This edition feels like closer for a lost episode that never got its curtain call. But it will, I'm excited to say. It also signals confidence from Disney's publishing arm that the Orville still has legs. Hyperion Avenue didn't just print this for nostalgia, they printed it because the Orville community keeps showing up. We are still there, you guys. We are still watching. We are still talking about the show. I hate even calling it a show because it's so much more than that. And I've told that to Seth myself, that this show is important to not only fandom, but to society. And honestly, there's something poetic about a series that celebrates human resilience being resurrected in book form after a pandemic killed the episode that inspired it. That's peak Orville. Hope through adaptation. Isn't there a movie with Nick Cage called Adaptation about a writer? Anyway, if there is, I think there is. I don't think I ever saw it, even though I love Nick Cage. But here's where things get really exciting, you guys. The script exists. The sets could be rebuilt, and the story could absolutely work visually. Filming in Europe might finally be feasible again. And I'm telling you, if you see this story, if you listen to this story, if you read this story, you will realize that the only way to make it believable is to film it where it's supposed to take place. If they just built some fake sets or went to Toronto or whatever, it's not going to work. It'll look fake. But imagine the Orville team back in those Gothic landscapes originally planned for production. Old world architecture contrasted with sleek Union tech. The aesthetic alone would make this episode unforgettable. When I first heard this story, when I finished it, I was like, this would have won Emmys. This absolutely would have been the #1 episode. It would have won Emmys. It would have put the Orville world on the worldwide map of things that are important to watch. And that's saying a lot because the Topa episodes were really important in season 3, but this to me beats that story out. It's so much more important for the audience to look back and look within. This story helps with that. And but think about the next season 4, what they can do with it. The moral weight of season 3's ending, peace with the Kalon, new threats on the horizon, would make this story hit even harder, you guys. And when Seth resurrects this as a full episode, it wouldn't just be a lost story anymore. It'd be redemption. This story would be redeemed. We as fans can celebrate once this episode hits our screens. Because every fandom has its white whales, unfilmed scripts, canceled arcs, lost pilots. Star Trek has Phase 2. Firefly has, what, The Message? For the Orville, Sympathy for the Devil. This is ours. But here's the difference. We actually got it in print, officially, canonically. And that says something about this community. Fans kept asking, kept caring, kept writing fan theories on Reddit until Disney realized there was an audience. That's not just fandom, that's persistence. If anybody knows about persistence, it's the Orville fandom. We are persistently waiting, not as patiently as they would like us to, but we're doing it. We're here together, you guys. So when you grab that paperback copy, you're not just buying a story, you're proving the fan base still matters. You're saying this universe is worth exploring. And the Orville universe is my favorite universe. I mean, every great Orville episode tackles a universal question. Identity asked whether AI could have a soul. Midnight Blue asked if love could transcend trauma. Domino asked if peace could survive vengeance. Sympathy for the Devil asks the oldest one of all of those questions. Can understanding evil make us better or just compromise us? It's a story about choice, really. I mean, the same thread that runs through Ed and Kelly's relationship, through Isaac's redemption, through Topa's awakening. When you strip away the science fiction, the Orville has always been about the morality of empathy. That's why this novella fits so perfectly into the show's DNA, you guys. It's the quiet, philosophical episode nestled between two loud, explosive ones. The thought before the action, the pause before the storm. And let's give credit where it's due. Seth could have shelved the script and moved on. Most showrunners would totally do that. But he took a creative risk, turning televised science fiction into written moral literature. That's rare in Hollywood. It's even rarer for a studio to back it, and the studio is totally backing it. But Seth, typical Seth, he understands something crucial. The medium doesn't matter, the message does. Whether it's performed, animated, or printed, the goal is to make us think. The Orville's basically a thinking man show, or thinking woman show, or thinking they show. And by releasing it as a book, he ensured the Orville would outlive the algorithm. Stupid algorithms. When streaming numbers fade, paper remains. That's not just smart. In this case, it's poetic. And yes, before you ask, the Orville season 4 conversation is still very much alive. Disney's new streaming strategy leaves room for passion projects. And the Orville is nothing if not passion driven. I've been face to face with Seth. He is very passionate about the Orville. You think you're passionate? He is extremely passionate. And if production ramps up next year, I mean, gosh, there's still time for production to ramp up at the very end of this year. I mean, we're getting closer to the end. But I've seen the Orville turn on the faucet right at the end of some years that it's been produced. Sympathy for the Devil could easily make the cut this season. Imagine the thrill of seeing a story you've read come to life. And with that classic John Debney score swelling behind it, and you know the music of the Orville's another passion of Seth's. The first thing he said to me when I met him in person, he runs up to me. I think what did he say? Egotastic JP. First thing he said, because we watched an episode of we watched Electric Sheep on IMAX together, and so after the movie, he finds me, he runs up, he's like, "Was the music too loud?" So the guy's thinking about music. And we know that he's a musician. He puts out records. He's probably got one out coming out right now. I don't know. But until then, until we get season 4, this paperback is the beacon for season 4. Proof that the light's still on in Union Docking Bay 3. All right, crew, your turn. Have you read Sympathy for the Devil yet? Or listened to it? Listening to it's really great. Bruce Boxleitner's pretty awesome. You even hear Bruce Boxleitner doing impressions of Gordon and Isaac and Boldest. Wait, was Boldest in the story? Portis had to have had at least a little one-liner in the story. I can't remember. It's been a little while. But do you even think Seth should film it for season 4? Of course you do. I'm asking a stupid question. Or do you think he should leave it as the Orville's literary legend? Because there's some Orville literature out there in the form of comic books. And the comic books are great stories too. Some of those would have made some great episodes for a season. But let me know in the comments or over on socials. I'm on Twitter quite a bit, even though Twitter's kind of, and they call it X, but I still call it Twitter because that's what it is. It's Twitter. But moral philosophy always sounds better when we argue about it together, right? So if you've enjoyed this Deep Space Book Club, make sure you subscribe for more Orville updates, lore dives, and cosmic optimisms right here on Egotastic FunTime's Talking the Orville. I got a lot of channels going on, you guys. I got Talking the Orville. I got the main Egotastic FunTime where we've been exploring sci-fi tropes through the history of Hollywood and, well, a little bit of history and a lot of modern times as well. But you can also check out egotasticfuntime.com. And if you want early access to videos, behind the scenes posts, and exclusive Hope Core extras, join me over on Patreon. Your support over there really helps keep the lights on over here. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to keep the lights on so I can keep making entertainment. Well, I don't know how entertaining I am, but content. This is definitely considered content. I don't know if it's considered entertaining. That's up to you, I guess. But it's entertaining for me to make it. But that's my own experience. That's personal. But whether it's on the screen, in print, or out among the stars, the Orville reminds us that humanity's greatest mission is still empathy. And remember, we all do better when we all do better together. Love you. Bye-bye.